Here, we study the last moments of those who perished in disaster. Mother Nature is a beast, and we are made in her image. My name is Chris Bumpus, and this is The story of the Vajont Dam brings to light a structure of towering comportment. This dam was, and still is, one of the highest in the world. Its height will come into play in this story's analysis. The dam reached its construction in 1960, built by an Italian company known by the acronym SADE. 2 years later, the dam and its output was nationalized by the Italian government. Now, the Dolomite Mountains, where this dam was erected, were recognized by sheer cliffs that were formed in the time of the dinosaurs. The area was, naturally, prone to rock falls, but when falling rocks encourage their friends, you get a phenomenon known as a landslide. All of this to say, the engineers behind Vaiont knew perfectly well how susceptible the region was to shifting riversides. Indeed, the left embankment of the dam was identified as unstable, but officials determined that a profound landslide affecting the foundational integrity of the dam was unlikely. The SADE engineers calculated that no wave caused by water displacement behind the dam would crest over, as long as water levels were more than 66 feet from the top of the structure. However, the company still determined to fill the basin past this threshold, believing that engineers would be able to react to a landslide in time by proactively releasing more water through the dam. By March 1963, the Vaiont Basin was nearly full to the top. One would think that this fact indicates there was no further risk of landslides off of the Monte. Oh, dear viewer, you are too trusting. In fact, locals of the Vajont Dam region had been regularly reporting consistent shakes and ground sliding among the Dolomites. So, to sum up, the basin of the Vajont Dam was identified as being prone to overflowing, the sheer mountain borders around it looked keen to fall, and people living in the vicinity were reporting ground movement. Clearly, SADE and the Italian government had a dire situation to address. Unfortunately, they would be faced with disaster before the year was out. Several tests were performed to determine what kind of effect a landslide would have on the dam's integrity. The tests, however, lacked attention to the impact effect of falling land. The professionals in charge of this dam analysis had decided that a landslide within 80 meters of the dam would not be possible. To compound this, the tests that were ran seemed to expect that a collision of the embankment with the basin would not be forceful enough to create a powerful wave. On the 9th of October, 1963, a significant, expected landslide occurred on the south boundary of the Vajont Basin. The landslip, which reached over a mile in length, consisted of about 260 million cubic meters of material. The Earth moved as fast as 68 miles per hour and collided with the lake in around 20 seconds. The landslide was anticipated with such a narrow margin that there were engineers on the crest of the dam, observing when the landslide reached the water. The impact of the event caused water displacement to shoot straight upward over the source of the slide and crash onto the sides of the basin. Quickly thereafter, a wave with a height of 820 feet surged over the top of the Vajont Dam, containing some 50 million cubic meters of water. If you recall, engineers had considered a water level of 66 feet below the crest of the dam safe enough to ensure against overflow. The water surge on 9 October had no problem clearing that threshold. The millions of tons of water fell 800 feet to the seat of the Piave Valley, where it gathered debris and continued its path into the canyon, bound for the town of Longarone. The commune was entirely leveled by the rushing flood, with only houses to the north and, strangely, the town hall surviving. Responding to the urgent situation, firefighters trying to provide initial response to the disaster struggled to navigate down into the valley. Roadways along the mountainous slopes had been torn away by the flood, making certain portions of the affected area much harder to reach. An extra stressor for the rescuers was that, at that point, the valley was in the dead of night. Victims were consumed by dark water and mud, so recovering survivors and dead bodies would have been slow work during the first hours following the dam failure. By the early morning of the next day, the Italian military was also present on site to aid in rescue/recovery efforts. Not only were these workers looking for people, they were searching for drums of toxic chemicals swept away from industrial sites during the surge. It is likely that there were more than 2,000 fatalities felt by the community around the Vajont Dam, though the bodies of over 500 of those victims remain buried in the valley to this day. Now, surely, the Italian government took the incident exceedingly seriously and used it to inform more far-reaching safety protocols, right? Well, actually, the government's position on the event was that it was an unavoidable thing, an act of God. The party in power of the government during this time period was the Christian Democracy Party, and the main opposing party was the Communist Party. The main media outlets of the communist side used the Vajont Dam disaster as a way to scathingly criticize the sitting government. As tends to happen, the Christian Democracy Party insisted that the communist reaction to the disaster was simply a political defamation tactic. SAID presumably had less to say to the press, but SAID lawyers were hard at work decreasing the compensation for survivors, and ruling some out of getting compensation altogether. The SAID settlement was as far as any compensation talks were taken, and the Italian government never sued SAID for any damage. Experts analyzing the Vajont Basin after the calamity of 1963 reported similar findings to the engineers predating the accident. It is clear that the edges of the basin were alarmingly steep, and the river had undercut the bank's original sheer shape, causing even more instability. There was speculation as to how the year's rains supplemented the likelihood of a land shift, but no consensus was ever found. In an excursion through northern Italy, you could still behold the towering Vajont Dam. The dam basin that it now supports is no longer a lake, but a crater full of landslip. The land under the dam still reflects the effects of the 1963 disaster, and the nearby valley is sealed in a layer of mud. Today, the dam stands over a site of tragedy, acting as a headstone at the mass grave of Monte, and reminding us that the deaths there occurred because of the failings of man, not Mother Nature. Hi everyone, thanks for returning to our channel to watch the Afterdamp Report's second episode, Monte. I wanted to take this opportunity actually to bring our focus back to the first episode, Winter Quarters. Right after that first episode aired, I wrote a blog post and submitted it to our website that was, in a sense, an addendum to Winter Quarters, but more so was my chance to address to our broader audience the full scope that we're hoping the Afterdamp Report and its episodes can cover. Naturally, when we're talking about the history of disasters and the scientific nature of these disasters, we cover some topics that can be upsetting, triggering, or frightening to any potential audience member. So we just want to reiterate that every viewer should be using their own discretion when it comes to watching new content that we put out, understanding that it can be pretty dark. As always, it really helps our channel if you like, comment, and subscribe. Once again, thanks for watching this new episode, and I'll see you in a month.